The time that we want to focus on the rain situation across the country. Yesterday, the Meteorological Department released a warning informing Kenyans that they need to prepare for heavy rains that should reach the peak sometimes this week, that is on the 23rd and 24th, but they expect it also to start going down starting Saturday. So we'll be speaking to the Meteorological Department representative, that is Dr. Richard Muita. But before we do that, let's listen to some leaders that spoke yesterday at the Meteorological Department here in Nairobi, of course, warning Kenyans on what to expect in the coming days.
Yesterday, unfortunately, very unfortunately, did not make it, succumbed overnight. And this morning we were able to pull out of the rubble and mud one other police officer whom we had not accounted for yesterday.
We will continue giving them the necessary support in terms of relief food and non-food items. But we are also urging the counties that with climate change, we will continue having these disasters. They must set aside enough resources in their emergency fund.
When you see our advisory, please put it to good use so that we save lives and property.
I am talking about Murang'a, Taita Taveta, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot, and we are looking at the counties of Garissa, Tana River, and parts of Kitui, where we are likely to have certain challenges. In the lower part near the Lake Victoria, Nyando and the counties of Kisumu, we are likely to have issues, as it were.
All our dams are full to the maximum. We are doing there is spillage already from Masinga, and all the way cascading it down to Kiambere, with a projection which our technical team are telling us in the next 2 days, those people who are living on the lower part of Garissa, there will be a lot of water because it's not only from Kiambere, there is also heavy rain from Kitui.
We urge the public to be very serious about these warnings and save lives and save property. Weather has become extremely unpredictable. Rains don't delay, and when they come in torrents. Let's take advantage of the ongoing rains. Their own prediction is that these rains are likely to be above normal, above average, which will be about between 30 and 50 millimeters.
All right, the Cabinet Secretary there, Mr. Tobiko, saying that the rains are supposed or expected to be above normal. And joining this conversation is Dr. Richard Muita, who is an Assistant Director at the Public Weather Services of the Meteorological Department here in Nairobi. Good morning, Dr. Muita. And yes, we hear the Cabinet Secretary saying that we're just about to experience above normal rain. I remember the last time I spoke to you in April last year, we were talking about missing rains. Now we are in the situation where the rains are just about to get above normal. What's happening with the weather pattern, especially in this part of the continent?
Oh, good morning, Tom. Thank you. I guess we were expecting this rain when we released the forecast in February last February.
Right, Dr. Richard, I'm not sure I can hear you clearly. Maybe you can. I'm not sure I can hear you clearly. Maybe you can try to go at it again.
Okay, Sam. I was just saying that we clearly gave the forecast for the season in February this year. Mm-hmm. And we had expected that most parts of the country would experience above what they normally experience in this season. Mm-hmm. And therefore, most of the places we had forecasted that we expected enhanced rainfall. And in the recent week, we have provided advisory indicating that we expect heavy rains in parts of Western Kenya, parts of central Nairobi, even the coastal area, and areas of southeastern like Taita Taveta, that is around Voi, and those areas. And we also say that we expect these rains also to spread to other parts of the country, especially the northeastern, the north, and also the northwestern areas like Lodwar, Lokitang, areas of Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, and even Garissa.
Right, and that sounds like just the entire country, because looking at the statement that came from your department yesterday, it talks about 45 counties. Only 2 are not covered by this unexpected rain. And the question I had asked you is, what is happening with the weather pattern in this part of the continent, bearing in mind that in April last year, when we spoke, the rains were missing because they came towards the end of that month and they were very minimal. But now we're having such a heavy downpour that is already causing destruction within just a few days.
Yeah, basically, it's about the weather systems that are driving this particular rain. And we have continuously, maintained a stable, warm Indian Ocean. You know, when you have warm ocean, there is a higher rate of evaporation into the atmosphere. And now with the wind, you can, of course, expect that the wind will be a driving agent. And therefore, there has been much moisture within our country, and especially driven by the presence of the intertropical convergence zone. This is a low pressure system where winds converge from the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere.
Right.
So the convergence around March to May is currently within our region. And therefore, this is the one that really is making the system become very strong. But also, Kituku, remember that we came from an extremely wet season, that is October to December, but also the rains extended in January. And initially, we had talked about the Indian Ocean dipole, which was as a result of the warm sea surface temperatures in the Indian Ocean. So we still see this remnant of the warm temperatures in the Indian Ocean, but at the same time, the presence of this intertropical convergence zone is making the rainfall continue, and especially the enhanced heavy rain.
Right, and so when you say enhanced heavy rains, we see a forecast that they might reach 40 millimeters every 24 hours, especially in the parts of central region, including Nairobi, as well as some parts of the western the western Kenya. What exactly does 40 millimeters mean when you're to compare it with what has just happened at the border of West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet?
Well, 40 millimeters is quite a lot of water. And according to our indications, or how we define the threshold for heavy rains, anything above 20 millimeters, that's 30 millimeters and above, within 24 hours, constitutes heavy rainfall. And therefore, when you have 40 millimeters, that means you have quite some significant amount of water. And also, this is not the only factor that would, lead to this particular amount of water, being significant, but also the landform, the geography. And therefore, if, for instance, you look at West Pokot and the areas of Elgeyo Marakwet, you see a very complex kind of geographical landscape. And therefore, there are valleys, there are hills, and there are forests, the areas. And in this case, you find in the presence of these large, climate drivers, you find that the rains in that particular area can be very intense. And therefore, that's why these amounts are actually significant in terms of what they can amount to, in terms of either rainfall or the flood.
And so the rain that has caused what you've seen in those parts, what is the measurement? How many millimeters?
Well, we are looking at more than 40 millimeters, just as you mentioned, in those areas, because you see it's variable. But also the issue in this case is a continuous heavy rain. Therefore, you find that you record 20 millimeters today, tomorrow you record 30, you record 40, and therefore the cumulative impact is the one that is even driving the landslides or the mudslides that you reported, or you rightly so, because when the soil gets soaked beyond capacity of holding the soil particles together, then it gives way, and especially in those hilly areas.
And when you talk about, because obviously this is the second time we are seeing such sort of landslide happening compared to what happened in November last year in West Pokot, At the weather department, I know that your work is basically to forecast the weather, but are you able to correctly forecast that there's going to be landslides and therefore to give the appropriate counsel to the people that live around such areas?
Oh yeah, we do give advisories, and advisories, in a sense, also provide some indications of what impact might, accrue from a given weather, say, event or a weather forecast. In this case, the advisory we gave, we had indicated that certain areas, that's including West Pokot, to be on the lookout for a possible landslides or mudslides. These other areas also include areas of Bomet. We also have areas in Taita Taveta, Murang'a, and even some parts of Kitui. So we have indicated that be on the lookout, those areas be, hotspots for landslides or mudslides occurring.
All right. And so for how long will we be in this situation? Because from your advisory, you say that the rains will get heavier on Thursday and Friday, but start to go down on Saturday. So for how long will this heavy rains last, and even the rainy season?
Well, with the advisory that we gave last week, we had indicated that the rains will continue up to Monday, which was yesterday. But then we also gave another advisory last evening and indicated that this rains will continue. That is the heavy rains. And therefore, we expect that the impact would be the cumulative amount of rainfall experienced in those areas. Because you see, if an area has been experiencing heavy rainfall and then you continuously see heavy rain or a continuation of the rain, then you do not expect the water to kind of calm down. And therefore, we expect that the heavy rains will continuously increase the risk of flooding in most areas, and possibly even in areas which are not experiencing flood. If the rains continue in this particular period of time, then there could even be a chance of flash floods in some areas.
Yeah, and we had the cabinet secretaries there warning of the flooding situation that is expected in the lower side of Tana. And I remember in May 2018, that season, it was very devastating for families or people that live in the counties of Tana River, Kilifi, and around those areas. Is the forecast similar this time? And what do you think can be done? Because those people have always, every other season, gotten themselves or found themselves in similar situations.
Yeah, the people within the Tana River belt and the Tana River catchment and the surrounding areas have always, had the brunt of flooding in most of the rain season. And possibly this season might not be different. You saw the statement that was given by the CS yesterday, CS Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. And there are indications that it's likely, because you see the rains that impact more downstream in the Tana River basin is basically what comes from the upstream, from the Aberdare, from the Mount Kenya, and all those areas. Now, add this to the impact that this is a slope. The water is coming down. Currently, you have heard that most of our catchment dams are almost full to the capacity, and some have even, filled to capacity and are spilling over. And therefore, this is something that, unfortunately, we have to expect in those areas that are in the lower parts of the Tana River belt.
And when I listen to you, Dr. Muita, it appears that, yes, the countries will receive their rains above normal rates, but what does this mean for agriculture? And also, when you're talking about agriculture, it's food crops as well as the pastoral communities that obviously are dealing with animal husbandry.
Well, for agriculture, I guess more rainfall is always good. Unfortunately, the amount of rainfall is not the only determinant factor in terms of having a successful production. So I guess it will determine also on the location of where the farmers are. In areas where the soils are well drained, such that you don't expect like flooding or water settling in farms, then they are likely to get very good harvest. And depending also on the crop type. Because, for example, if you look at the maize basket in Kenya, that is basically the areas of Tale, Uasin Gishu, and other areas in the Rift Valley, you find those areas have well-drained soil. And so if farmers have planned their activities in good time, and maybe the advice of the agricultural ministry selected the right seed, then we are likely to see bumper harvest. Unfortunately, for some areas which may not have very well-drained soils and which exist in the neighborhood of floodplain or areas where water do not have good drainage, then they are likely, unless they have some good agronomic, plans on their farms, like good drainage of, taking the water away, then they can equally benefit. But again, on the side of livestock, of course, this is a win-win situation.
Right.
Because livestock depend on pasture, and therefore a lot of rainfall means that you are likely to have more of this pasture mostly in the pastoral areas, and even where they are practicing dairy farming.
Okay, all right. As you end up on this conversation, Dr. Muita, when every time this happens, we hear the people living in lowlands are advised to go to higher grounds. But when you go to counties like Tana River, if you're talking about a higher ground, it's not existent. I don't know what your thoughts are on what residents of such kind of places, what can they do, even as they prepare for what is just about to happen?
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's unfortunate that we have to actually respond to a crisis like an emergency. But through the county integrated development plan, I hope that the affected counties, which of course have historically suffered from similar, impacts of flooding and weather disasters, I guess if they put good plans in the long term, such as possibly coming up with maybe new settlements where people can move, and then possibly they rehabilitate the areas where people move closer to the river banks, because there are the people who even farm near the river banks along the Tana River catchment. I even saw in the news this morning that there was a farmer who was showcasing his maize farm, mushroom there, in flood water. And therefore, I would think in the county integrated development plan, they can have longer term plans in order that they don't have to react to a crisis like this. Because we gave the forecast, about 2 months ago. Right. And we have been giving updates of advisories that we expect this kind of weather, heavy rain. We expect the rains to continue up to this particular period. And we are advising maybe the relevant authorities, the disaster management authority, and so on, maybe to take the right precautions, the county government to put measures in place. And so I think it is something that really needs a good long-term plan, of course, supported by short-term plans such as maybe provision of humanitarian, aid where necessary, or medicine and so on.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Richard Muita there.